Hello and welcome to Strip Panel Naked. I'm Haas and I'm going to show you some of the cool stuff lurking in the pages of some of my favourite comics. This time we're taking a look at Declan Shalvey and Warren Ellis' Moon Knight from 2014. Creating a good action comic is kind of intrinsically a very hard thing to do, as comics themselves are static by their very nature, which is at odds with, fast-paced action. So, to create an action scene that works well, creators need to utilise everything they have available to them. Sometimes this means appearing to do very little at all. I'm going to use Moon Knight issue 5, which is Scarlet, as the example, as I think, in my opinion anyway, it's near enough the perfect action comic, and I think that there are 3 key elements as to why. The first is the framing. Like cinema, framing your panels in the comic helps present visual information, and because Ellis chooses to have minimal amount of dialogue in this issue, Shalvey gets the responsibility of building characters without words. So page 4, there's this large splash page that opens up a moment of quiet calm. Here Shalvey frames Moon Knight from behind, but he's very large. It's a simple panel, it explains the layers of the building Moon Knight will need to work through, but positions him immediately as a powerful man by having him so big. Immediately after, on page 5, it opens with this panel, which then bursts into violence, which brings up the second point about Shalvey's use of backgrounds. Look here how, as soon as the action starts, the background just drops out. It becomes just Moon Knight, his weapon, and his opponent. Before we look at that further, notice these 4 panels. In the opening 2, Moon Knight faces the camera. He takes your focus. In the third panel, the opponent is small in the frame, he's tucked away in the lower third, and Moon Knight takes up the majority of the panel. By doing this, Shalvey puts him in power. And then in the final 4th panel of the fight, Moon Knight has literally pushed his opponent off of the panel. So what looks different about this next panel? The backgrounds come back in. In every panel choice, there is a singular reason to include or exclude anything. By dropping out the background in the fight, the panels read quicker. There's nothing for your eye to look at beyond that simple action of Moon Knight beating up this guy. So by bringing in a background for the first and last frames of the page, Shalvey slows down and speeds up your eyes, and therefore the pace at which these actions happen when you're reading them. In cinema and TV, you're actively controlling how long something is by the shot length, that's easier, but to do this so effectively in a comic is pretty impressive. And here's the final point that I think makes this issue work so well. Ellis' pacing. By adding dialogue, Ellis is able to, again, slow you down as a reader. It takes longer for you to read dialogue than a panel without dialogue. He gives you more information to take in and more to read and see. So no matter how fast or slow you read a comic, this is 2 creators controlling that. Every page of this comic, and actually most of their run on Moon Knight, is an excellent example of storytelling in the comic. Here Moon Knight has made his way up a few floors. Look at Moon Knight's placement throughout this page, and of those around him. Again, the background drops out for everything after the first panel. Notice how Moon Knight is always drawn around the centre of the panel here as well. There's a small progression as he moves his way slightly, but notice how everyone else around him is moved, literally thrown away. It's a clear indication of power structures in the comic, and turning the page lets you see this in full view. Moon Knight stands in the middle of all the fallen foes. Have a look at this page, near the end of the comic. Notice how we can tell immediately from the first panel Moon Knight's current state. He started the issue with his jacket on, the only parts of his skin visible with the gaps in the back of his gloves. Now his sleeves are rolled up, his hood is ridden up, his top button's undone, and he's visibly tired and hunched over. This issue has taken its toll on him, and there's a deliberate slowness to the page in comparison to the majority of the rest of the comic, in that every page has a full background rendering. Notice why. In the second panel we see him dragging the bat along the wall. The only indication of movement being that line being drawn by the blood on the bat. Ellis neglects to add any sound to the frame, and here Shalvey adds a beautiful finishing touch, and you can see of kind of trapping the foe between the wall, the bat, and Moon Knight's body. As referred to earlier, Moon Knight stays large in the frame, he's very dominating. This third panel does 2 different things. Even though Moon Knight is smaller in the frame, which does lend to weaken him somewhat, he's in full body profile, and the lines of the wall all converge at his point, which makes him the centre of attention. Your eye falls naturally on Moon Knight. Through no dialogue, action, or anything else, it also indicates he's getting more worn down. He doesn't chase this guy. It also, with this 4th panel, reinforces the story. There's something that Moon Knight is here for. And the final, threatening 5th panel presents the bloodied bat, large, and contains both the girl and the final enemy, within the frame of the doorway. There's no escape for this guy. Again, deliberate. Take a quick look at the next page, 1st panel. Notice the dead space around the doorway and the small frame that Moon Knight now stands in fills up. This is the end of the road. It's so obvious even this guy gives up. So again, this is the framing, positioning of Moon Knight and the action in the panels. It's the backgrounds, when to use the backgrounds in the frame, when not to. It's the pacing, the dialogue, the amount of panels. By controlling those 3 aspects of the comic, Ellis and Shalvey can control you, the reader, and that's a particularly important thing in creating a good action comic. Thanks for listening.